In a previous screencast, I showed you how to take a wet gas and calculate the mole fractions of the other components on a dry gas basis. Here we're given a dry basis composition. We're also given a mole fraction of water, and we need to find the composition of the stat gas on a wet basis. Here's the composition of our dry gas. In addition, the mole fraction of water in the stat gas, not on the dry basis, is 0.06. And we want to know the complete composition on a wet basis. So here we have the compositions of our dry gas, but what we want are the compositions of the overall gas. Let's figure out how to do it. So our first step is figure out the number of moles of water in the dry gas. And what we know is in every 1 mole of wet gas, we have 0.06 moles of H2O. We also know in every mole of wet gas, we have 0.94 moles of dry gas. So the next thing we'll do is let's relate the two. So we have again this 0.06 moles of H2O, and here's mole of wet gas. In every 1 mole of our wet gas, there's 0.94 moles of dry gas. If we cross out these, what we end up with is that there are 0.064 moles of H2O per every mole of dry gas. So the next thing we have to do is assume a basis. So we're going to assume a basis of 100 moles of dry gas. And if we do that, we can find, using the compositions we were given, we can find the moles of every component in the dry gas. So we have our 70 of nitrogen, 15 of carbon dioxide, 10 of oxygen, and 5 of carbon monoxide. But if you remember, we have 0.064 moles of water for every 1 mole of dry gas. So for every 100 moles of dry gas, we're going to have 6.4 moles of water. And now we find our composition the way we normally would, with our total moles being 106.4 moles. And if we go back to our picture, here is the 100 moles that we assumed as a basis of the dry gas, and here is that 106.4 moles that's our wet gas. So now we're going to finally find the composition on a wet basis. So here's the composition of our N2, our CO2, our O2, our CO, and finally our H2O. And note when we add this up, this equals 1. Note that we set a basis for both the wet and the dry gas analysis that we had done earlier. We can do this because we are looking for a composition of a stream, not a molar flow rate. Try this yourself using a different basis, such as 50 moles or 1 mole of dry gas, and you'll see that you get the exact same compositions.